Hi, we're your instructors for the course, and we're very excited that you're here. Why don't we start with some introductions? My name is Jake. I have a master's degree from Bethel Seminary, and I have been a pastor for over 10 years. I consider myself a bit of a nerd, and that definitely bleeds over into my faith. On any given Friday night, you might find me playing board games or having deep theological discussions with my friends.
My name is Denise. I've been in the church my entire life, and I was baptized as a teenager. I'm an avid reader and a natural skeptic. As I grew into adulthood and became a mom of two now grown children, I realized that I couldn't depend on what I was raised to believe, and that I needed to use reason, evidence, and experience to develop a foundation of beliefs for myself.
I'm Mackenzie and I teach middle school English and spend my free time investing in my local church, which is my true passion. My love and knowledge of the Bible comes from growing up in church, personal study, and seeking out platforms like the Disciple Collective.
I'm Bob, and I've been a professor of the Old Testament for over 30 years. I have a master's degree in the Old Testament, and before I taught the Bible at the college level, I was a high school chemistry and physics teacher. And I love combining my passion for the Bible, my passion for science, so on, all together in the way that I teach, and I think it's a unique gift that God has given to me to use.
As we begin to dive into this course, we need to start with some basics. What is the Bible? To start, the Bible isn't just one single book, but rather a collection of 66 different books.
And these 66 books are split into two different sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Testament is just a fancy word for covenant, which is just a fancy word for promise. In general, the Old Testament covers God's original promise made through Moses to the Israelite people. It also tracks the Israelites' history as they move away from God and back to Him again.
And the New Testament starts with the book of Matthew and the person Jesus. Jesus is God's Son and the Messiah, which is someone chosen specifically by God to do his will on the earth. As God's Son, Jesus came to give a new covenant, which is why we call it the New Testament. As part of this new covenant, all people, not just Israelites, can be part of God's family.
And it's important to know that the Bible wasn't originally written in English. The Old Testament was mostly written in Hebrew, with just a little bit written in Aramaic. In fact, there's only 268 verses of the Old Testament are in Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Greek, which was the popular language in the Near East at the time of Jesus. We will discuss how we got our English Bibles later on in this course.
The Bible also has a variety of genres. Here's a basic list of some of the genres you'd expect to see spread across the pages of your Bible: narrative, poetry, wisdom, prophecy, gospels, letters to churches, and apocalyptic literature. You may be familiar with some of these from your time spent in grade school, but others are unique to the Bible. It's not important right now that you understand what all of these different genres are. However, it is important to realize that reading with the wrong genre in mind can lead to a misunderstanding and misinterpretation of the text.
It's also important to remember that the Bible wasn't all written down at once. It was written over 2,000 years by 40 different authors on 3 continents. And those 40 authors range from lowly fishermen to kings to prophets chosen by God. Knowing how long it took to write the Bible and how many people wrote it might make us worried about whether the Bible is consistent or about whether we can accurately know the Bible. We will address those concerns later on in the course as well.
Let's recap. The Bible is a library composed of 66 different books. The Bible is divided into 2 sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Bible was originally written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. The Bible took about 2,000 years to write. And finally, it was written by 40 different authors spread over 3 different continents.
The reason we're going through this, even though you may be familiar with this information already, is because there are a lot of misconceptions about the Bible today. For example, a lot of people think of it as one book when it's better understood as a library of books. People also see it as being written by one author. when actually it was written by dozens of people who independently reported their personal experiences with God. It's also easy to forget that our English Bibles are not the original, and translators are bringing an ancient text into the 21st century. And when it comes to genres, we can quickly fall into the trap of reading every page of the Bible in the same way, when in fact it has poetry, wisdom, and narrative, all with different perspectives and intentions.
To even begin answering the question, can we trust the Bible? We have to first have a solid understanding of what the Bible is and not what the world thinks it is. So, with these basics in mind, we're ready to tackle Module 2, where we'll talk about the Bible's overarching story and underlying themes.